Hi everyone, welcome to the F5 APM learning series. This is chapter 3. In this chapter, we will learn how to configure the F5 APM as an OAuth Authorization Server using the OpenID Connect Authorization Code Flow. Prior to watch this video, I highly recommend to watch chapter 2 first, because that explains how APM operates as an OAuth authorization server using the OpenID Connect Code Flow, which provides you the essential background for this chapter. Alright, let us get started. This is our lab setup for OAuth testing. We access the F5 management IP from AD or DNS server. Also, for the OAuth testing, User Workstation 1 access to https://auth.lab.ae. Also, F5 server-side self-IP connects to Active Directory for the user authentication and AD query using LDAP port TCP389. So far, we have opened all the necessary ports on the firewall. There are 15 steps to complete the configuration. Let us proceed configuring all the steps. Step 1. Let us decide the virtual server IP and hostname. The virtual server plays a critical role as it functions as the OAuth authorization server. Let us have the quick look what it does. It gets the request from the OAuth client through the user browser. Also, it asks the user to log in and checks their credential. Once the credentials verified, it provides the access token and ID token using the authorization code. In our setup, the decided VS hostname is auth.lab.ae and the decided IP address is 10.10.230.101. In step 2, let us create the DNS record to access the virtual server hostname, which is auth.lab.ae. In our setup, it is Windows DNS Server. Let us go and configure the DNS record in Windows DNS Server. To configure this, go to the DNS Manager and expand the DNS server. Here, expand to the forward lookup zone. Also, here, expand to the lab.ae domain. On this, go to the right pane. Here, right click and create a new host A record. Here, type the host name as auth and it automatically completes the FQDN as auth.lab.ae. Also, type the IP address to resolve. Our IP address is 10.10.230.101 and then click add host. The successful creation prompt you the message. Also, the new record will be listed in the lab.ae zone. This completes the DNS record creation on Windows DNS Server. In step 3, let us test the virtual server hostname using nslookup command from the user workstation. First, let us connect to the user workstation using RDP and then open the command prompt. Here, type nslookup. Then type the hostname as auth.lab.ae. You will see the hostname resolved with the IP address, which is 10.10.230.101. This concludes the DNS record is created for the virtual server hostname, which is auth.lab.ae and working well from the user workstation. In step 4, let us create the client SSL profile for the virtual server hostname. I have created the certificate signing request in F5, then signed the CSR using local domain CA and obtained the digital certificate. Later, I have imported that digital certificate into F5. Also, I have configured the client SSL profile using that newly created certificate. If you are not familiar with this process, please watch the other video linked in the YouTube description for the detailed steps. In step 5, let us create the virtual server. To create the virtual server, log in to the F5. Then on the left pane, click local traffic. Then choose virtual server and click create. This will open the virtual server configuration wizard. Under general properties, type the name as OpenID Auth Server VS. Also, type the description as this virtual server is for auth.lab.ae. Then type the destination address as 10.10.230.101. On the service port, drag down and locate port as HTTPS. Under the configuration, locate and choose client HTTP profile as default HTTP profile. Then locate and choose the client SSL profile as auth client SSL profile, which we have created in step 4. Leave the other settings default, go to the bottom and click finished. So far, we have created the virtual server without APM profile. Once we create the APM profile, we will attach to this virtual server. In step 6, let us create the JSON Web Token key. To create this, on the left pane, go to Access, then Federation, then JSON Web Token, then click the key configuration. Here, click Create. This opens the new key configuration wizard. In this, name it as auth JSON Web Token key. Also, configure the ID as 101. Also, configure the JWT type as JWS. Also, choose the signing type as RSA. Also, choose the signing algorithm as RS256. On the certificate, expand the certificate file. On the certificate file, expand and choose the F5 default cert. On the private key, expand and choose the F5 default key. Click Save to complete the changes. The successful save lists the key configuration on the middle pane. This completes our JSON Web Token key creation. In step 7, let us create the JSON Web Token. To create this, on the left pane, go to Access, then Federation, then JSON Web Token, then click Token Configuration. When it opens, click Create. This opens new token configuration wizard. Here, name it as auth JSON Web Token. Also, configure the token issuer name as https://auth.lab.ae, which is our virtual server hostname. There are two ways to set the token expiry. One is here and the other one is on the provider. We are going to configure the token expiry on the provider settings. So leave this value blank here. Then move the signing algorithm RS256 to the allowed list. Then move JWK key to the allowed list which we have created earlier. Then click Save to complete the changes. The successful save lists the newly created JSON Web Token on the middle pane. This completes our JSON Web Token configuration. In step 8, let us create the JSON Web Token provider. To create this, on the left pane, go to the Access, then Federation, then OAuth Client and Resource Server, then click Provider Configuration. When it opens, click Create. It opens the new provider configuration wizard. Here, name it as Auth Provider. Then set the type as F5 Provider. Then uncheck the Auto JWT. Then locate and choose the token configuration as auth JSON Web Token, which we have created earlier. Also, replace the hostname as auth.lab.ae in authentication, token, token validation, and user info URI. Also, uncheck support introspection because we are going to use this provider only for Java tokens, not for opaque tokens. The OAuth resource server verifies the Java tokens using the JWKS endpoint, not via token introspection. Then click Save to finish the changes. The successful save lists the newly created JSON Web Token provider on the middle pane. This completes our JSON Web Token provider configuration. In step 9, let us configure the JSON Web Token provider list. To configure this, on the left pane, go to the Access, then Federation, then JSON Web Token, then click Provider List Configuration. When it opens, click Create. It opens the new provider list configuration. Name it as Auth Provider List. Also, set the access token expiry as 60 minutes. Then locate and choose the provider which we have created earlier and click Add. You should see the provider is added successfully. Then click Save to finish the changes. This completes the JSON Web Token provider list configuration. In step 10, let us configure the scope and claims. Prior to configure, let us understand what is scope and claims. Scope tells what level of access the OAuth client is requesting to the OAuth Authorization Server. Claim tells what information about the user is included in the token by OAuth server to OAuth client. In other words, the OAuth Authorization Server reads the scope values from the OAuth client request and then issues the tokens with the corresponding claims based on that scope. In our case, we mutually agree to provide the following claims when the OAuth client includes these scopes in its request to the authorization server. The first scope is profile. Profile contains the user first name. This is very useful to display the username after the login. The second scope value is email. Email includes the user email address. This is very helpful for the user authorization and granting access to the application. Hope this gives you the clear understanding about the OAuth scope and claims. Let us configure the scope. To configure this, on the left pane, go to the Access, then Federation, then OAuth Authorization Server. Here, click Scope. When it opens, click Create. It opens new scope configuration wizard. Set the name to email. Also, set the scope name to email. Be aware, this is the parameter name which accepts from the OAuth client. Based on the scope name, it automatically set the caption. Also, set the scope value as session.ad.last.at.mail. Be aware, this is the parameter value which APM set as the scope data. Click Finish to save the changes. This completes the email scope configuration. Once again, click Create. It opens the new scope creation wizard. Here, set the name to profile. Also, set the scope name to profile. Be aware, this is the parameter name which accepts from the OAuth client. Based on the scope name, it automatically set the caption. Set the scope value to session.ad.last.at.displayName. Be aware, this is the parameter value which APM set as scope data. Click Finish to save the changes. This completes the successful creation of profile scope. Let us configure the claims. To configure this, on the left pane, go to Access, Federation, OAuth Authorization Server, then click Claim. When it opens, click Create. It opens the new claim configuration wizard. Here, set the name to email. Also, set the claim type to string. Also, set the claim name to email. Be aware, this is the parameter name which we received in the scope. Set the claim value to session.ad.last.at.mail. Be aware, this is the parameter value which APM set as claims. Click Save to complete the changes. This completes the email claims configuration. Once again, click Create. It opens the new claim. Set the name as Profile and set the claim type as string. Also set the claim name as Profile. Be aware, this is the parameter name which we received in the scope. Set the claim value as session.ad.loss.at.displayName. Be aware, this is the parameter value which APM set as claims. Click Save to complete the changes. This completes the profile claims configuration. Important point to note here. The attributes displayName and mail are Active Directory attributes. They are retrieved using Active Directory query. In this lab, the OAuth client is requesting two scope values, which is email and profile. In your environment, you may need to configure additional claims depending on the scope values requested by OAuth client. In step 11, let us configure the client application. Prior to configure the client application, let us understand the purpose of client application. Every OAuth client uses this client application configured values when it registers with OAuth Authorization Server. So it is good security practice to create a separate client application for each OAuth client for the registration. Alright, let us go and create the client application and see what values it generates. To create the client application, log into F5. On the left pane, go to the Access, then Federation, then OAuth Authorization Server. Here, click Client Application. When it opens, click Create New. I'm going to use OpenID Connect Debugger to test OAuth Server. This client app is for the OpenID Connect Debugger. So name it as OpenID Connect Debugger. Be aware, you can create multiple client applications based on your requirement. Then name the application and caption as OIDC Debugger. Be aware, this name will be prompted to the user for the consent. Also, put the client app logo URL for the stylish consent prompt. On the security settings, set the grant type as authorization code. Once you set the grant type, it expands you to type the client app redirect URI. In our case, it is OIDC debugger. So let us type the OIDC debugger redirect URI and click add. Then check to enable to support the OpenID Connect. Then leave the authentication type as secret. Here you can specify the scope which the OAuth client can send it in the OAuth request. Our defined scope values are email and profile. So move those available values to selected. Leave the other settings default and click finished. The successful creation displays the new OAuth client application on the middle pane. Click to open that. Here you will see the unique client ID and client secret dynamically generated by F5 for the OAuth client registration and authentication. This completes the OAuth client application configuration. In step 12, let us configure the OAuth profile. To configure this, log into the F5. On the left pane, go to the Access, then Federation, then OAuth Authorization Server. Here, click OAuth Profile. Here, click Create New. The OAuth Profile configuration wizard will open. When it opens, name it as Auth Profile. Then, on the client application, select the OpenID Connect Debugger. And then, unselect the opaque token because F5 APM does not support opaque token in OpenID Connect mode. Then, choose to select Support Java token. Then choose to enable OpenID Connect. Also configure the User Hostname as https://auth.lab.ae. Then configure the JWT key type as JWS. Also choose to select the JWT primary key type as the configured one. Then choose to select the ID token primary key as the configured one. Also choose to select the user info primary key as the configured one. Then select the JWT claims as email and profile. Also select the ID claims as email and profile. Also select the user info claims as email and profile. Then configure the JWT refresh token encryption secret and then click finished. This completes the OAuth profile configuration. Later, we will use the OAuth profile in the access profile. In step 13, let us create the Active Directory Authentication service. Prior to configure the AD authentication, let us create the AD monitor. To create the AD monitor, go to the local traffic, then monitor, then click create. When the monitor configuration wizard open, type the name as AD monitor. Then choose to select the type as TCP. On the alias service port, choose LDAP. Then click finished. This completes the AD monitor configuration. Time to create the AD authentication. To create this, go to the access, then authentication, then Active Directory. Here, click create. The Active Directory Authentication config wizard open. Here, type the name as lab.ae. Also, type the domain name as lab.ae. Also, here, choose the server connection as use pool so that you can add more servers for redundancy. Also, type the pool name as lab.ae pool. Then, type the IP address of Active Directory and hostname. In this lab, I have deployed one Active Directory. If you have multiple Active Directory, you can add one by one. Then choose the server pool monitor. Here use AD monitor, which we have created earlier. Then type the admin name as AD account name. Then type the admin password as AD account password. Also verify the admin password re-entering the same. Leave the other settings default and click finished. Once you're done with this configuration, verify the AD pool members. To verify this, go to the local traffic, then pools, then pool list and check the lab AD auth pool. It is green. It means the communication port TCP 389 opened between the F5 self-IP and Active Directory. Also verify the pool member retrieval. To check this, go to the access, authentication, then Active Directory. Here click to open lab AD auth. Then go to the groups and click update. You should see the group get updated. This confirms the typed credentials are working fine. My case, all went fine. When you configure AD authentication, in case if you face any issue, log into the F5 CLI using PowerShell and type the below AD test command to test. If the communication is allowed and the account is valid, we should see the success message like this. This concludes the Active Directory authentication configuration. We will use this in Access Profile. In step 14, let us create the APM Access Profile. Prior to create, let us understand what is APM Access Profile. This access profile uses the OAuth auth profile to check and verify the OAuth client's registration details. The successful OAuth client verification performs AD authentication against the end user. Based on the successful authentication, it uses the AD query to retrieve the user information from the Active Directory. The retrieved information is useful because this is used to match and provide the correct OAuth scope values. Finally, the OAuth authorization agent approves the allowed scopes and issues the tokens and claims. Alright, let us create the APM access profile. To create this, on the left pane, go to the access. Here, click Profiles and Policies. When it opens, here click Create New. This will open New Profile and Policies Configuration Wizard. Name it as Auth APM Profile. Also, make the profile type as LTM APM. On the OAuth profile, choose to select the auth profile which we have created earlier. On the cookie options, select Secure and HTTP only. On the language field, select English. Leave the other settings default and click Finished. You will see the access profile created in the middle pane. Click to open that. Then go to the access policy. Here, locate to edit the visual policy editor. The visual policy editor will open in another tab on the same browser. Here, we are going to use form-based authentication. So, click plus. It prompts the config options in wizard. Here, under the logon, choose logon page and click add item. It opens the logon page configuration. This is the logon page user gets for the authentication. If you wish to customize, you can customize it here. Since it is for the lab purpose, I just click save. Logon page is added successfully. Again, click plus. Once again, the config options wizard opens. Drag to authentication. Here, choose to select AD and click add item. It opens the AD configuration. Locate and choose lab AD on the server configuration. Leave the other settings default and click save. The successful save display the VPE like this. AD is added successfully. On the successful AD branch, click plus. It opens the config options wizard. Here, drag to the authentication and choose to select the AD query and then click add item. It opens the AD query configuration. Here, locate and choose server as lab.ae. Also, leave the search filter empty. Then go to the branch rules and delete the default one. Once deleted, then add the new branch rule. When the new branch rule added, name the branch rule as successful. New branch rule expression is empty. On the expression, click change. It prompt for the expression configuration. We are going to configure symbol expression. On the symbol, click add expression. Here on the context, keep AD query. Also keep the condition as AD query post. And then click add expression. It will display the symbol expression like this. Click finished the expression configuration. This will display the new branch rule with the expression configuration like this. Click save to complete the AD query configuration. The successful save displays the VPE like this. We have added the AD query successfully. On the AD query successful branch, click plus. It opens the config wizard. Here, drag to authentication. Under the authentication, locate and choose OAuth Authorization. Then click add item. It prompt for OAuth Authorization configuration. Here, change the scope messages like this. Leave all the other settings default. And click save. The successful save will display the VPE like this. We have added the OAuth authorization successfully. On the OAuth authorization successful branch, change the option from deny to allow and save the changes. Finally, on the access policy, apply the changes. This concludes the APM Access Profile configuration. In step 15, let us attach the configured APM Access Profile into the virtual server. To attach this, go to the local traffic and virtual server. Here, click to open the virtual server, OpenID Auth server, which we have created earlier. When it opens, drag down and locate the access profile. Here, choose the access profile which we have created in step 14. And then click Update the virtual server configuration. This attaches the configured APM access profile into the virtual server. This concludes our chapter 3, where we have configured the F5 APM as an OAuth Authorization Server using the OpenID Connect Authorization Code Flow. Please continue watching Chapter 4. In Chapter 4, we will move on to the testing the OAuth Authorization Code Flow using the tools such as the OIDC Debugger and Postman. Thank you for watching.